Helsinkit në Serbi, duke sjellë këndvështrimin e saj lidhur me projektin e Ballkanit të hapur. Intervista është realizuar nga kolegu Bledian Koka, ju ftoj ta ndiqni në vjem.
Ju përshëndes të nderuar televizionshikues, nisma Ballkani i hapur, i ndërmarrë dhe i le të themi sintetizuar zyrtarisht pak ditë më parë në Shkup mes Serbisë, Maqedonisë së Veriut dhe Shqipërisë ka ngjallur një seri debatesh. Përplasjet, siç keni patur mundësinë të ndiqni, kanë ardhur sidomos edhe në radhë politikës shqiptare mes Prishtinës dhe Tiranës. Kryeministri Edi Rama prej 2 ditësh ka bërë një seri reagimesh duke akuzuar politikën e Kosovës si një politikë e cila po e izolon Kosovën dhe nuk po lejon atë të impenjohet ose të futet në këtë nisëm që sipas kryeministrit Rama është një nisëm që i shërben rritjes së ekonomisë së vendeve të rajonit, por nga ana tjetër kundërshtimet e kryeministrit Kosovës, por jo vetëm, vazhdojnë të mbeten të njëjta. Duhet bashkëpunim më së pari mes shqiptarëve dhe më pas të shkojmë si të barabartë dhe të lidhemi edhe me vendet e fqinjësisë së mirë. Por jo vetëm në Shqipëri, edhe në Serbi, duket se ka deklarata që e kritikojnë nismën Ballkani i hapur si një nisëm e cila në vetvete nuk favorizon vendet e rajonit, por më së shumti favorizon Serbinë, por favorizon edhe vetë presidentin e Serbisë, zotin Aleksandar Vučić, i cili sipas këtyre zërave është në një pozitë të vështirë politike. Por çfarë po ndodh, si e shikojnë pikërisht nga Serbia këtë nisëm? Un kam të ftuar sot në lidhje të drejtë për drejtë në Skype presidentin e Këshillit e Ndjes, presidentin e Komisionit të Helsinkit për të drejtat e njerëzit në Serbi, zonjën Sonja Biserko. Ms. Biserko, thank you for this interview.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, we read your reaction about the Open Balkans theme. As I can mention you say that this kind of approach with Open Balkans, it's an approach that is most profitable for the Serbia and for its president Aleksandar Vučić. But first of all, can you tell me your opinion about the Open Balkans in first?
Well, this is an idea which has been recycled for so many times. There's the mini Schengen and now Open Balkans, but I think this is always an answer or response to the fact that the EU is not really prepared for new members at this point, and especially Serbia is not also ready for the EU membership, and I don't think they have so far decided really upon European future of Serbia. Therefore, President Vučić is always coming up with new ideas, with new initiatives, which apparently are in a way showing that Serbia is on the way of the Balkans, but not ready to wait for so long, and therefore it is turning to some kind of regional cooperation, which is already on the table for so long, also inspired by EU itself, and we have a Berlin process, which is going on now for several years, and it also is including the economic cooperation in the region. And I think this new initiative from President Vučić is not recognized by the Berlin or EU, neither United States, because they do often mention regional cooperation, but they never mentioned Open Balkans. So therefore, this idea of recent is not at all being consulted with Berlin or EU, and there is no real substance in this initiative so far. On the other side, it is really benefiting mostly Serbia as the biggest state in the region. And I think both North Macedonia and Albania are joining the initiative because they're trying to put pressure on the EU to sort of start the candidacy to offer candidacy positions both to North Macedonia and Albania, which are waiting already for too long for this new phase of approximation to the EU. Therefore, I don't think it's a long-lived initiative because it is just one of the pressures, mostly from North Macedonia and Albania. As on the side of Serbia, Serbia is really trying to cover its internal situation at the moment, which is very, I would say, troublesome, very uncertain. There are too many affairs, criminal affairs, which are ongoing, and too many dissatisfaction with the current government, and they're trying to cover all so far, how should I say, undelivered promises, especially on the EU approximation. I don't think Serbia at this point is interested in this, how should I say, EU possibility, because it is not ready to engage in the reforms which are necessary in order to sort of speed up this process. As we know, most of the reforms have been stalled over the last 2 years, and Serbia hasn't met any of the criteria so far, and no new chapters were opened during the last 2 years. And in the meantime, Commission has become very critical of Serbian performance, economic, political, and so on. In the meantime also, Serbia has a very bad how should I say, records on the media freedom, on the political freedoms. The whole political situation has deteriorated. There is no political dialogue in the society. And there are too many other problems which also illustrate situation in Serbia, and also show that Serbia has not been working on its EU agenda the way it should have done so.
But as I mentioned you, Ms. Biserko, you said also that when Albania and North Macedonia will start their negotiation process, they would, in this moment, they would leave this initiative of Open Balkans. Is this right?
They will be much less interested in such an initiative, which is not, at this moment, it's not precise, it is not structured, it is not defined, it is just an idea which is floating around. And I think it's very important for both North Macedonia and Albania to obtain the candidate status, because that would keep the whole region on this EU path and the agenda as well. And I think EU and the Commission generally should be more open both to North Macedonia, Albania, also Kosovo, because these are 3 states which are not at the moment progressing towards the EU, because EU at the moment is not open for new membership, but the enlargement process has been stalled. But anyway, for these countries, it is most important to achieve certain standards, which would maybe in the long run be of utmost importance for the membership. So I think at this moment it's extremely important for these countries to get engaged in the process in order to be able to sort of achieve certain goals, not only because of the membership, but because of both societies in Albania and North Macedonia. So I don't think this initiative will be really truly pursued by any of these countries.
But Ms. Biserko, as we are speaking about the EU statement about this initiative, do you think that this project is blessed by the EU or the United States? Or because
and Germany has openly denied, sort of turned it down, because Berlin first of all, is in a way supporting Berlin process, which already is covering regional cooperation in the economic field as well, and many other aspects. And this is something which is on the way for some years already, and this should be pursued. I mean, this is there is no replacement for that, because especially Berlin is not supporting it, and Brussels. Then such an initiative like Open Balkans is not something which is going to get its support, especially because I don't think Serbia is sincere about it at this point. It is, of course, there was this article penned by President Vučić in daily paper Politika, which he says that the Balkans should start sort of cooperating, especially with Albanians and so on, which is obviously something that we all think and hope for. But on the other side, Serbia is very hostile to Kosovo. Their relations with Albanians generally in Serbia and with Kosovo is problematic. So therefore, the only Albanians they count are Albanians from Albania. Therefore, this is not a sincere initiative. It should cover all countries in the region, but they don't support this initiative, neither Montenegro or Bosnia or Kosovo. Therefore, it is not an initiative which is truly recognized by the regional, by Western Balkans.
But Ms. Biserko, you mentioned before that Berlin government truly spoke against this initiative. But our Prime Minister, Mr. Edi Rama, yesterday used to have another reading of the statement made by the official Berlin yesterday, and said that this kind of reaction is support for the Open Balkans initiative.
Well, I didn't see that statement. Of course, that those initiators of this idea will look for positive support from Western countries, especially Germany and the United States. But as I said, according to what I learned from some of my contacts from Berlin, this initiative is not supported by Berlin.
Is not supported by Berlin. But let's speak as this initiative it will go on, or it will enter in function. Serbia has another or a different position of geopolitical and strategic from the Albania or the North Macedonia. For example, Albania is now a member of NATO, and Serbia has accepted the 5G internet of China. And this kind of collaboration has the risk to open the Balkans for the investments that came from Russia and China? Is this a risk?
Well, this clearly indicates that Serbia is not truly oriented to the West. It's not a problem to have cooperation neither with Russia or China. It really matters the fact that all these projects that come from either Russia or China are not transparent, and that they are very much open to all kinds of corruption. This is the problem, and they are not pursuing any kind of standards or norms. And this is, in a way, much easier to obtain such financial support, either from Russia or China. They have their own interests, and this is not the problem, because each of these big states have their own problems, their own strategies in the region. The problem is that Serbia is trying to play between these different factors now engaged in the region. And in my view, the Balkans can develop and have some real prospects only being under one umbrella. And this umbrella, in my view, is the European Union, because the European Union proved as most successful in history, not only recently, as the most successful project, not only in achieving the peace in the region, but also developing economically, socially, and so on. So I think this is of utmost interest for the Balkan countries to become members of the EU. And in order to achieve this goal, it's extremely important to follow and pursue certain standards and norms which guarantee the membership eventually. So, of course, Albania is already a NATO member, as well as north of Macedonia, but unfortunately Serbia is not open for this membership, mostly because Russia is preventing its membership in the NATO, and they're inciting all kinds of propaganda against NATO, always reminding Serbian citizens of NATO intervention in '99. But on the other side, I think Russia is pursuing its own interests, not Serbian interests. And therefore, I can say that the current political elite in Serbia is not mature enough to reflect what real interest of Serbia is. On the other side, Serbia also didn't give up accomplishing unification of Serbs, or completing the Serbian world, so-called, which means that Montenegro and Republika Srpska in Bosnia have to go in north of Kosovo and probably Macedonia are sort of the goal of the Serbian elite, meaning that they would become one state. And as long as Serbia is outside from the EU context and the EU membership, they think they can achieve this goal because they expect that international context will change. And just to remind you that Milorad Dodik 2 days ago, he said, we have time to wait. In 3 years, we might expect new Trump to come in, and then we will be able to realize our aspirations in the region.
As we are here, let me ask you an opinion about the proposal of Serbian politician, Mr. Dragan Markovic Palma, which have proposed that Mr. Rama, Mr. Vučić, and Mr. Zaev should be nominated for the Nobel Prize.
It's ridiculous. I think, I mean, anybody can suggest or propose any kind of such, how should I say, initiatives, but I don't think that they don't deserve Nobel Prize. And this is especially the president of Serbia, who is really keeping the region in some tense relations. And Serbia has been a very, how should I say, destabilizing factor in the region for too long. And I think it is very important for Serbia to finally decide where it belongs. Once it does it, she decides which side it belongs, then it will be much easier for Serbia to sort of progress towards EU membership. As long as this dilemma is not resolved, Serbia will be a destabilizing factor in the region.
Ms. Biserko, the Prime Minister of Kosovo, Mr. Helsinkit, is one of the voices most harshly against the initiative of Open Balkans. Today he has invited our Prime Minister, Mr. Rama, that first of all, the Kosovo and Albania should first collaborate together, grow together, and then maybe there should be a collaboration with the other neighbor states here in Balkans. How do you consider the statement, or let's say the position that Kosovo has maintained until now toward the Open Balkans initiative?
I think it is a proper position of Prime Minister Helsinkit, because he has all reasons to distrust Serbian or Belgrade behavior towards Kosovo, because Belgrade has always looked for a partnership with Albania on the Kosovo issue, and they almost succeeded in that a few years ago.
Yes.
But they have never taken seriously the partners in Pristina, which is really some kind of arrogance, and Kosovo has full right to be highly distrustful on how Belgrade behaves, especially using Tirana and Albania in this context.
And economically speaking, which of the three countries of the Open Balkans initiative would gain more if this idea of taking off the customs all over the borders of these three countries should be removed? How can they earn from this, or who will earn more, if I can say so?
Well, obviously, Serbia is the biggest, and the central state of the Balkans would benefit most, and this is something that is quite obvious. And in order to have equal relations in this initiative, it's very important to build up or structure this relationship with mechanisms which should guarantee equality of all partners. And so far, we haven't seen anything of this. So this is just an idea which is being promoted, spinned throughout the region, and also offered to the EU as a replacement for the enlargement. And this is some kind of answer to the EU, how to say, enlargement strategy, which in a way is not open up for the new membership for the time being.
In the first visit of Mr. Rama during the 2016 in Belgrade, you know that Mr. Rama asked for the independence of Kosovo. You know, and there was this kind of reaction of Mr. Vučić, who took out its headset from its ears. But in the Skopje meeting, Mr. Vučić spoke and said that this was a kind of agreement between the two of them to start a new relationship between Serbia and Albania. It is normal to say this and to accept this? And what about the strong friendship between Vučić and Rama also?
But as I said at the beginning, Belgrade was always interested in relations with Albania, and they were rather correct, let's say, over the last 10 years or so. And it's not surprising that Serbia is favoring, improving of relations with Albania, also hoping to make a deal on Kosovo. And as we all know, as of 2015 and 16, there was this secret plan of partitioning Kosovo. Unfortunately, a very strong international lobby took part in that with very prominent figures. And they almost succeeded. It was Germany which stopped or prevented this partition deal. At that time, it was also important to note that American president was really not truly interested in the Balkans, and that he allowed such kind of scenario behind the back of the EU. And this was, I think, with the Biden administration coming in, this partition deal is off the table. And I think this is very important to know, because Kosovo is an independent state, and the United States is very much working on consolidating this status, and this is going to be a strategy in the years ahead. Therefore, there is no possibility, at least at this point, for Belgrade to cut a deal with Tirana on anything relating to Kosovo. And I think this is quite clear message coming from United States. I think that Edi Rama had in mind something else, that he tried to blackmail the EU for not getting candidacy status, and very often he said we are going to opt for a natural Albania, whatever it means. But somehow that was his response to the Commission and the EU members for not being prepared to offer candidacy status to Albania. And I think it is really unfair, both to North Macedonia and Albania, not to have obtained this status much earlier. And I think this is really something which had contributed to this deterioration in the region. And I think they should do that as soon as possible.
Ms. Biserko, I have a last question about the initiative, the Open Balkan initiative. For an Open Balkans, let's say, system, speaked up during his writing in one of his media, Mr. George Soros, in 2000s. He speak for the Open Balkans idea, and here we are now with the Open Balkans initiative. Do you have any comment on this?
Oh yes, in 2000 was a totally different context in the region. Up to 2000 was the benchmark for the future of the Balkans, because in 2003 EU decided to offer membership to all Balkan states. They also started to build this Balkan architecture, which means NATO membership, Council of Europe membership, and EU membership. At that time, it was really hoped that the Balkans will move faster. And at the beginning, it looked as if this was possible. But as of 2008, after the financial crisis, the mobilizing potential of the EU decreased, and also the interest from the EU and the United States. So now we are here where we are. And this kind of initiative, when you talk about Open Balkans, you have to talk about equality, about respect, about the trust in the region, in order to achieve such, goals, and in order to believe in such initiatives. You need to have conditions, or something which would guarantee the equality and honesty and, in a way, trust of the regional partners.
And the last question, Ms. Biserko, nowadays we are having here in Albania a debate about a concert of Mr. Goran Bregovic, you know very well, that has been invited in a beer feast here in Gorica. in Albania. But above the neighbors, or in the other part, especially the Albanians of Kosovo, are asking that Mr. Goran Bregović should not have been invited in this concert, because they consider Mr. Bregović and its music as a nationalist one, and as a music that inspired the army of Serbia during the war to go further and further. Do you have a comment about this?
Well, I mean, it's very difficult to take the position on that, because it doesn't mean that his music could be or was used by Serbian nationalists, but at the same time he was a musician who was very much, celebrated abroad at that time.
Yes.
So, and as we know, music is something which is really mobilizing sentiments of the people most quickly, and can be very useful in bringing people together. So I don't know what kind of program he might have in Albania, and what music he would offer to the audience in Albania. But this is something I don't really have a clear position on that. Not that I'm sort of against or for, but I think it's very important to see with what program he's coming to Tirana. What is he going to offer? And he is a well-known musician all over the region, and probably abroad as well, I mean outside the region.
For example, should Mr. Goran sing the Kalashnikov song here in Albania?
I don't think so, because it is really how do you perceive his songs, and if Kalashnikov is perceived as something which was in favor of sort of war and Belgrade offensives around the region, it should be forbidden, I would say. This is how most people perceive this song, and therefore it shouldn't be the part of the program. I know what all these famous names from Sarajevo have done. They took side of Belgrade, some of them pretending that they're defending Yugoslavia, or maybe they seriously thought that they're on the better side. But, they also have to to feel the consequences of such wrong decisions.
I see.
Because we are all responsible for what we have been doing over the last 3 decades. Therefore, also these public figures like singers and other performers should also be responsible for their contribution to the atmosphere, to the creation of the atmosphere. Whether they did it on purpose or not, this is another thing. But they have been part of this, scene in Serbia, which created certain atmosphere which was, triggering all this, aggressive behavior from the Serbian side. So, I mean, this is something you have to decide.
Absolutely.
There are many moral issues that we all have to think of and then really see what is really relevant. Nothing is black and white, and I think this is something that we have all to learn and reflect on, because otherwise we won't be able to achieve any, just peace in the region. We have to be more tolerant, I would say. So this is really up to you. You have to look at it and then decide whether to have this conflict or not.
Ms. Biserko, I thank you very much for your time and for sharing your opinion with us.